So, all right, great. Continue. All right, welcome everybody. This is the May 25th Five Oaks Triple Creek NAC meeting. It is being recorded. My name is David Kamin and I'm the NAC chair. Very briefly, NACs are city-sponsored organizations. We are open to, if you're a member of the NAC, it means that you live within our NAC boundary. You don't have to own property, you just need to live within the boundary. You're welcome to join our board, come to our meetings. We always need people and ideas. To start with, let's have everybody introduce themselves, starting with Dennis.
I'm Dennis Seeley. I'm NAC chair.
Vice chair. Okay, Erik.
Erik Lehr, board member and BCCI rep.
Great. Let me just ask, Miles, do we all have the same spacing in
No.
the yes?
No.
Oh, okay. So let's go. Miles?
Yep, Miles Glowacki, neighborhood program coordinator with the city.
Great. Lori?
Lori Leach, Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District.
Officer Maurer?
Dan Maurer with the Beaverton Police Department.
Great. And Aaron?
Aaron Hatch, recorder.
Great. Okay, well, let's start off with Lori. She's our THPRD rep.
Well, good to see you all again. So I have a fairly short report, which is probably good. I know I was pretty long the last go around, but just reminding everyone, we have continuing summer registration for our programs, youth summer camps, classes, and other activities, which, you know, as guidance continues to change, we're able to offer more, expand our programs. So again, we are continually adding more. So if you're interested in any of that, check on online on our website for what you might be interested in. As I mentioned last time, we're hiring. So if you have anybody that's interested in any kind of part-time or seasonal work, that's also available online. So everything from lifeguards to camp counselors to office staff to maintenance workers, it's lots of offerings there. Our youth volunteer recruitment program, RISE, and our junior guard program. So recruiting teens, well, the junior guard program is a little younger, so it's 12 to 16, and then the RISE program is age 14 and up. And so they're training as youth leaders. Participation offers them the opportunity to learn leadership skills and communication skills, and then earn some school community service also to fulfill some of those community service requirements that some of the youth may have. We have multiple one-day volunteer opportunities, and that's been an ongoing thing. And then again, as you know, vaccinations and masks and COVID guidance all changes, then that opens up even more opportunities for those people that want to participate in volunteer activities, which would be community garden work, natural area restoration projects, as well as some community and cultural celebration activities. That's available for sign up on the website. Memorial Day, an annual event. The staff are working with the American Legion Post 124 to support Memorial Day celebrations at the Veterans Memorial Park. This event includes a photo remembrance display coordinated by THPRD and a self-guided walkthrough. Community members are invited to submit photos of lost veterans to be honored via Insta Messenger on THPRD Facebook and Instagram sites. So if you need more information, you can reach out to me or onto the website for that as well. We recently received a YMCA grant, which is allowing 160 youth for the to be able to participate in free summer camp for a portion of the summer. So that's a huge win there. Great partnership. And Then we have a mobile rec program, which you may or may not be familiar with, but the mobile recreation program provides opportunities for outreach to youth and families in the parks. So they will mobilize and take experiences and opportunities out into the parks. There's a schedule online. So they're able to do that. And we've received a grant from Sprint for that as well. And then bird watching. Bird watching is excellent right now. Especially in some of our wetland sites, including the Greenway Parkway and Commonwealth Lake and Bronson Creek Greenway and Bronson Creek Park. So all kinds of natural areas that are available for bird watching opportunities. You can find that information on the website as well. And spring wildflowers, you probably are all noticing lots of things in bloom, and maybe not everybody's a fan because of allergies, but there's a lot of stuff blooming right now, especially in the forested sites, including the THPRD Nature Park, Whispering Woods and Jordan Woods. So lots of wildflowers to see there. And then one last thing is, and I'm not sure everybody's aware that we have a YouTube channel devoted for THPRD. This hosts board meetings and other public meetings, but recently there was a meeting about the Beaver Creek Trail, and this trail segment will connect the West Side Trail at the THPRD Nature Park to the Cedar Hills Crossing area. So there was a meeting that was held, and it can be viewed on the YouTube channel, and I've included that in the meeting minutes, but it's youtube.com/user/THPRD video, all one word. And that has information. It's a 1.5 mile trail. And it talks about the alignment of the trail, the timeline, and then the details from the project team. So if you're interested in that trail segment piece and how everything's going to be connected, you can find that online as well. So, and that's pretty much all I have, other than one other aspect is, as the changing guidance is moving forward, there'll be opportunities in our facilities. If you are vaccinated, then you won't need to wear masks anymore. All that stuff should be up on our website probably by tomorrow, if not the next day. But things are changing quickly. If you're outdoors, you won't need to wear masks any longer, as long as people can maintain their physical distancing. But all of that is, like I said, moving really fast. But that changes what we can offer and how we're able to provide for our park district patrons. So very good.
Very good. Yeah. I had one quick question. The trail to Cedar Crossing, where does it start again?
It's connecting the West Side Trail
Okay.
at the nature park. Yep.
Lori, you mentioned that the facilities are going to be open for people who are vaccinated. How, if at all, is THPRD going to be verifying that, or is it just sort of honor system?
Yeah. So what we're asking patrons to do is show their vaccination card, which we will then match up with their ID. At the aquatic centers, presumably other places too, once they show that card, we'll give them a Tyvek wrist strip for the day. Because then, you know, at the pool, it's like, how do you know if somebody has been, hasn't been? They're all walking around with no masks. So those folks will have, you know, that bracelet on, that wrist strap. And it'll be marked, you know, with the day or whatever. I mean, we know there's going to be people that are maybe, you know, not going to want to follow whatever, but we're trying to make it as easy as possible, and, you know, and trying to make this a quick turnaround. So we're hoping, as I think everybody is, that this is going to be a really short window. Things are going to change really quick, and, you know, guidance may change, and maybe we're out of the whole risk guidance, you know, sector level guidance stuff by, who knows, maybe end of June. So things may open up completely. So again, it's like kind of a day-to-day thing, but that was the way that we came up. So if folks can show their vaccination card and show that it's 2 weeks post, so that they are truly fully vaccinated, then that's what we'll do. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Thank you very much, Lori.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and bow out, but if you don't have any other questions for me.
Anybody else have questions for Lori? All right, thank you again and have a good evening.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
You too.
Okay, next up, Officer Maurer, Beaverton Police.
Hi, guys. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Real good.
Good. Just a couple of short things. Not much has changed in the Five Oaks area. As far as crime stats, it's as of every month, it's been staying pretty normal, pretty level. Nothing is jumping out and catching my eye as far as new things or new spikes in crimes. However, in Washington County, I know we've talked about this before. Definitely when we were doing the in-person meetings, but when it comes to pedestrians, in Washington County, we've had a lot of pedestrians getting hit by cars, and numerous of them have been fatal. So it's just something to pass along to friends, family, as the weather starts getting better, for people walking outside and stuff like that. When the summer comes, wear high visible colors, use crosswalks, double check, triple check each way before you cross in the street. Like you said, these are horrific accidents that are happening, but they are happening, and we're just trying to alleviate, the best way we can on getting that awareness out there and having people double check, triple check, high visible colors and all that kind of stuff for the drivers. And then the other thing, or anybody have any questions on that?
Is there a pattern to I mean, is it at night? Is it people running out in the road, or it's just all over the place?
From what I know, and I can try and get some stats for next month, but from what I understand, it's been kind of all over the place. It's been at night, during the day, early in the morning. It's been people not paying attention, like the pedestrians crossing the street, not paying attention. It's been drivers not paying attention. It's kind of everything. So for drivers, I mean, when it comes to crosswalks, people crossing, come to a complete stop and then go, especially at stoplights. And then for pedestrians, always use a crosswalk, push that button and look both ways, because as we know, drivers these days are always in a hurry to get somewhere. So always be aware of your surroundings when it comes to crossing the roads. But yeah, any other questions involving that kind of stuff? The other thing I wanted to point out, and maybe you guys have more information on this, the Highway 26 project is starting here fairly soon. They're repaving Highway 26, so from 185th Avenue all the way to the zoo.
Ooh, all at one time?
I believe they're going to do one direction, so probably east first or west first, and then vice
Yeah, but I
versa.
mean, like all of the eastbound lanes and all of the westbound lanes simultaneously?
That's my understanding. Yes.
Oh,
And that is starting very soon. So inform your family if they need to travel to Portland, or if they're coming from Portland, traveling home here, be aware, because it's going to be a nightmare for traffic. And then after that, once that is done, the Highway 217 project is starting. So they're widening the lanes, making an extra lane. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there. I know my wife, she travels to Portland in the morning sometimes for work. So that's going to start up fairly soon.
And what is the proposed duration for the 26 project?
That I do not know. I don't know the specifics on when exactly it's going to start and when they are supposed to finish. I can try to get more numbers on that if you'd like. But I'm not sure on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about anything else?
Yeah, so I'm seeing this debate going back and forth on Nextdoor a lot, but there's been a bunch of like increased coyote sightings recently, and people talking about what they are or not able to do when a coyote stays in their backyard, going after their pets. Like, I assume you are not allowed to shoot a coyote within city limits, but it'd be good to talk with the authority on that.
Well, in this area, we're kind of we're weirdly mixed with Washington County, the jurisdiction. I would have to get clarification, because if it were my cat or my dog and it were being attacked or something, I would do everything I could to prevent that. I know, in my opinion, I wouldn't hold that person at fault for trying to protect their property, their animals. But I'll double check on that and get more clarification. Because when I used to work graveyard, coyotes were slowly making their way in town, and there's an obvious reason. That's where the food is. Animals, garbage, stuff like that. So they are definitely making their way towards the city more.
Thank you.
I had
Miles,
a question about just in the interest of road construction updates. There is an ongoing Walker Road project run by Washington County that I believe is in phase 3 or 4, was supposed to start around September. Sorry if I'm skipping ahead on an agenda where maybe this is brought up, but just curious if there's any updates that are known around just the status of the Walker Road project.
I believe is that a Nike project? Is that around Nike, or is that from 173rd to 185?
It started at Murray, which like phase 1, and now I think phase 3 is what you just said, like 173rd to 185.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the timeline with that. I don't know if David or Dennis, do you guys have any more information on that?
I believe the next phase is going to be the Murray Walker Road intersection. They're going to be adding lanes and turn lanes and through lanes. And I believe that's the next phase. They delayed the part from 170th to 185th. There won't be a signal at 178th until possibly next spring. I believe that's what the update was when we talked to him last.
Interesting. Good to know.
And the other thing that they told us was Walker phase 2 or whatever the next stage, that was supposed to start as soon as Jenkins finished, and Jenkins is done. So I would think it's got to be starting pretty quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's had about 4 or 5 starts and stops the past few years, which some understandable, but it's good to know that there's that update on Murray and then also on 173rd to 185th. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I knew about that construction, but like I said, I wasn't sure on the specifics. And with the Jenkins, all of Jenkins all the way up to 153rd, that took quite a long time. So I would assume it's going to be, because that's a fairly big project what they're doing on Walker as well. So it's probably going to be around the same kind of time frame lengthwise, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Officer Maurer? All right, thank you very much.
I did have one other thing, and sorry, it just came to mind. As far as, I know somebody brought it up last month, as far as shred events, but the Beaverton Police Department is no longer taking part in those. We're not hosting those anymore. So it's going to be a part of the city doing it, or I know that somebody mentioned it last week or last month about the Five Oaks taking part of that. So Beaverton the police department is no longer hosting that anymore.
I see.
Yep. But other than that, I appreciate your guys' time. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask. Other than that, I'm going to take off.
Thank you again.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And I'll get back to you on that coyote thing next month. I'll let you know. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Next up, we have our city update by Miles Glowacki.
Yeah, I also don't have a lot of updates right now, but a couple of them that I want you to be aware of is there's a Beaverton downtown parking survey that's live right now, asking residents what their experience is with parking in downtown Beaverton and what opportunities you'd like to see for parking. And also if the dining options that have been allowed in the street and in the parking spots, like First Street Dining Commons and some of the other ones downtown, should continue once the pandemic passes. So I encourage you to, if you go downtown, to take a look at it and answer the survey. And then tomorrow night, there's the Housing Options Project. It's not an open house, it's a presentation. And it is from 6 to 7 p.m. And it's to learn about different ways the city can allow more housing choices and for you to provide your ideas on how this should work. And I'm sure Eric will talk about it in BCCI, but they came to BCCI last night and the report was very interesting. At least I thought it was. And that's at beavertonoregon.gov/HOP. And then the city manager recruitment's been narrowed down to 2 finalists. They had an opportunity for community members to ask questions, kind of meet the panelists or the candidates virtually. And the recording of that is on the city manager's portion of the city webpage. If you want to watch that, they got some really good questions. And we expect an announcement to be made soon on who city council's chosen. And those are all the updates I have.
Oh, okay. Do you have an update on the elections from last week?
As of last night, they were still counting about 8,000 votes. And the city council race was, I think, I'm forgetting how to pronounce her name. Her last name is
Hartmeyer Prigg?
Hartmeyer, yeah,
Yeah.
Prigg, had 49% of the vote, which is not enough to win the seat outright. So we're looking at a runoff in, I believe it's in September. And I think Eric will have an update from BCCI on that as well.
Okay, yeah.
But if the trends continue with the last 8,000 votes, no candidate will have a majority.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Miles?
Well, Miles, I don't know if this has to do with you or anyone in your umbrella. I heard that In-N-Out Burger is looking at Beaverton to open another location. That's almost canned chaos compared to the one they opened up down south. I mean, they had lines like 2 miles long.
Yeah. So your information's a little bit incorrect. They're looking at a location in Washington County outside of the city limits.
Oh, okay.
Currently outside the city limits. It's on Beaverton Hillsdale next to the Chick-fil-A. There's like a Hawaiian time restaurant. It looks like it used to be a Burger King or a McDonald's at one point. That's the location they're looking at.
Oh, okay.
So Washington County is handling the land use application. And They are going to have a neighborhood meeting. If you give me 1 second, I can see if it's already passed or if it's coming up. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's see. Okay, so it happened on Thursday, May 20th.
Last week.
Yeah, last week. And there's a lot of concern, especially in the Denny Whitford, Raleigh West neighborhood about it. West Slope's watching it too. But since they're not in the city, we have no jurisdiction over the design or of the site.
Okay, I just thought if it was somewhere, in the core, that could be a logistics nightmare on the grand opening. Because was it Salem had, a mile-long line that formed early in the morning.
There are definitely some concerns about the traffic impact to Beaverton, Hillsdale, and especially to the surrounding neighborhood. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
I have a question with the housing project. Would that be something we could post on our Facebook page or the survey or any of these things?
Yeah, I think that would be appreciated. I can put the links in the chat for you.
Yeah, I think I found it. It's just
Okay.
the housing object. Yeah, I just looked it up online. So just since it's tomorrow, I just thought maybe we could get the word out that way.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Good suggestion, Aaron. Okay, next up is Erik, BCCI report.
Yeah, so I'll start off with what Miles was just talking about with the election. So like he said, it's Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg is just about 1% short of the 50% majority she would need to prevent a runoff. So assuming that it stays that way, there's going to be a runoff in September between her and Jerome Sabayan, who has, I believe, about 38% of the vote right now. And if that does take place, we at BCCI are going to do another voters forum that would just be those two candidates for potentially the full hour. So hopefully that would be good to get a lot of questions. Certainly wouldn't be a rushed thing. And it sounds like at least we are hoping that we would be a in-person voters forum, at least somewhat in person, which
Nice.
of course would be the first time in a couple of years have been able to do that.
Eric,
Yep.
is that a recount? They're recounting the votes, or they're just still waiting for all of them to come in?
They just still haven't fully counted all the
Got it.
initial votes.
So normally it's just obvious enough that someone has the majority that they know by now.
Mhm.
Has
Yeah.
this ever
And-
happened? I'm just curious how often that happens.
With not super often, when you have more than two candidates running for a position and you split the ticket, it's more likely to happen that we'll have a runoff. And it's also an off election year, so turnout is super low. So yeah, literally every vote needs to be counted to make sure.
Got it. Thanks.
We had the runoff with Danny and Lacey and Kate, but it wasn't a matter of votes thing. That was pretty obvious, after election night, it was going to go to a runoff. So there's still plenty of votes out there to where Ashley could win this, win the 50%, depending on how things go. But if she doesn't, it'll be a runoff. We'll have a voters forum. Okay, and then the other topic for which I'm going to share my screen is the Housing Options Project. All right, everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this is the survey that Miles mentioned. It's open till June 11th. It's going to be the open house tomorrow. So if people are interested or concerned about this topic, I would encourage them to check this out. Just as a reminder, this whole project is in response to a law passed by the state, House Bill 2001, I think it was. So in that sense, this is not something that Beaverton is driving. This is Beaverton is trying to respond in the way that they believe is best for the city. So if there are concerns with the underlying bill, there's nothing the city can do about that. Just understand it. All right. So with respect to what the city is actually doing, they're trying to, within the framework of this new House bill, set up a structure that determines how and where different housing types can be built in each neighborhood. And they're looking at 3 primary options at this point. One that's going to emphasize flexibility, one that's going to emphasize environmental impact, and one that's going to focus more on the context of the neighborhood. So the first option they're calling high opportunity. Again, this is going to be the one that provides the most flexibility. It's going to be the least restrictive and would most likely result in the largest houses. And Aaron, I'll share this slideshow, so we can put it in the minutes. There's a lot of information here. I just want to go through this very quickly. The second, ecological footprint. This is focusing on environmental impact. So how can you control the design of new homes to reduce the impact of climate change? And the other part of that is going to be to allow for more open spaces. So this is going to be encouraging smaller homes with more outside open areas, and potentially reduce parking spaces as well. The final option, neighborhood context. This would be trying to match what's already going on in the neighborhood. So if you've got a lot of, say, 1-story, like Rambler style houses, well, that's the kind of house that's going to be allowed to be built in a neighborhood. If you've got a neighborhood with bigger houses, 2- or 3-story houses, well, then you'll be able to build houses of that time as well. I think that one is, there are a couple different ways they're looking at it that have to do with how much parking would be required, whether it's going to be off street or on street. And just a quick summary of the 3 different options. So the first one, likely to have the largest home with the least restrictive standards. The middle one is going to be the most environmentally friendly, but it will probably result in the smallest types of houses and lots. And the third one is going to be kind of in between and will probably result in the most on-site parking. So it's a lot of information. I went through this really quickly, but if you go to that link, you can review all the options in detail and take a survey and give your opinion, or again, go to the open house tomorrow. Let the city know what you're thinking. Any questions about that?
When do they propose a decision on, are they choosing one option or a combination of all 3?
My understanding is that they're looking for feedback on this, but they would likely be choosing one option.
I think there's an opportunity to kind of pick and choose, but kind of the theme is what will dominate the. So if the theme is environmental, they may shift some things around, but that will kind of direct the policy.
And I don't get the sense that any of these alternatives are completely set in stone the way they are. That's, again, they're looking for feedback, and maybe, David, it does end up being a blend of some of the options, but I think once they've figured out what the ideal option is, that's what they're going to go with.
I see. And then, so these are full-scale houses versus say adding an ADU. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like part of what the standards include would be number of dwellings on a lot. And so, are we talking a single family versus duplex, triplex, quadplex, which, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, and an ADU would be considered a dwelling as well. So if you had a single family home and an ADU, it would be 2, just like a duplex would be 2.
Mhm. Okay.
I'll just add, the city's going through this exercise in part because they want to do the best thing for Beaverton. And also, if the city doesn't write its own rules, the state will mandate rules for the city to follow.
So have other jurisdictions come up with their rules?
I think they're all going through it together at the same time. The final framework came out just a couple months ago from the state. And then there is a timeline to rewrite the development code and implement it, written into the state law.
Okay.
So this is all coming from the state, and this, I think we've been talking about this for a year or two, right? So this, was there any discussion or any controversy when it passed? I don't remember really hearing much until it had already passed. I'm just curious. I know that, you know me, I always like to know the background.
Yeah.
From what I remember, the state law passed, and then the land use, the state land use board spent quite a bit of time like drafting how to implement what the intent of the law was. And Brian Martin, who's a senior long-range, he's a long-range planning manager at the city, was on that committee that helped draft the rules. And he's also leading this exercise for the city. So you did have representation when they were writing the rules. So.
Okay. Okay, well, it looks like our presenters are here. So if nobody else has any other questions for Miles, let's go ahead. Tonight, we're having 2 people from the Transportation Department of the City of Beaverton. We have Dan Turk, who is Transportation Project Manager, and Jean Senechal Biggs, Transportation Division Manager. And they're going to be talking about a project called The Loop. So take it away, Dan.
Thanks, David. Yeah, let me just introduce myself a little bit. My name's Dan Turk. I've worked with the city of Beaverton with Jean in the Transportation Planning Department of CDD for just about a year now. Originally from Illinois, but spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. with my wife, and we decided to move out. Jean was very persuasive in my interviewing me, and just a lot of nice people to work with for the city. And we looked for a house a long time in Beaverton and got lucky and found a nice one on Weybridge Way, just south of Five Oaks High School. So right in your neck of the woods. And I happen to think that's the best part of Beaverton. The people in South Beaverton that are spending 20 minutes getting in and out of where they are, I don't know. We looked at a lot of houses back there, but we really like being close to 26, and of course everything possibly is available there in Tannisbourne. Jean, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit, or?
Sure. Hi, folks. I'm Jean Senechal Biggs. As David said, I'm the Transportation Planning Manager here at the City of Beaverton. I am just coming up on my 2-year work anniversary at the city. And I am just really excited that we've been able to get this project moving forward in the last year. When I arrived at the City of Beaverton, this was one project that was high on the list of priorities within the Community Development Department. If any of you followed the earlier work I heard you mention Brian Martin, just as you were talking about the Housing Options Project. Brian Martin and Steve Regner worked on our downtown development project. And that was really taking a look at sort of what's the future vision, how do we want our downtown to continue to develop and grow. It was very much a land use look. And Dan will explain a little bit more, but the loop was one of the concepts that came out of that project that got really kind of better defined. And we are now moving forward with that project. So this is really a chance for us to think about the downtown on these particular streets and how we might change them in the future. So you're going to hear more in a minute from Dan, but it's nice to be here. It's always good to get out and visit with the NAC. So thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Yeah, and thank you guys for taking the time. You know, for us, this is a really nice opportunity to talk to people that aren't necessarily, you know, downtown all the time or don't live downtown. So, you know, your perspective, whether it be positive or negative, is very welcome. It gives us a good perspective. We've presented a couple times to the Central Beaverton or Beaverton Central NAC, and then other groups as well that are focused on the downtown or redevelopment of the downtown, like Bureau. So this is a good audience. All right, let me start sharing my screen here. Here we go. All right. Thanks for the patience. And okay, is that okay, Jean? Can you see? Okay, thanks. All right, so what I'd like to do today is just introduce our project, give you an idea of the background involved. Jean alluded to some of it, and then you know, what the products of our particular effort right now, and then talk a little bit about opportunities that everybody has to participate, and then have a little discussion about some things that you guys see. You know, we have a few prompts, but you know, any questions, of course, are good, or comments as well on other parts of the project. So the loop is basically up and down Hall and Watson, where they form a one-way pair going north and south through downtown Beaverton. The concept of the loop is to build a strong connection between two parts of the downtown, Old Town and Beaverton Central, by looking at how these two streets specifically and their sidewalks are used and how they look. So the idea is to link some cultural, economic, and civic destinations. For example, the new PRCA on one end, the library and city park on the other end. And very importantly, welcoming a diversity of residents, employees, and visitors. We want this project to be a public infrastructure support for changes in the downtown that are positive and also don't lose the value that we have there now. Right now, in the downtown and up and down the loop, people walking and biking face a lot of safety challenges. There's a lot of traffic. There's not necessarily a lot of space dedicated to them. Also, there are key regional and city connections that go through there. Canyon Road, Farmington Road, east-west, each carry about 20,000-30,000 vehicles per day. The loop basically cuts across them. And then Canyon and Hall themselves carry about 10,000 vehicles per day. So there's a lot of traffic going up and down these streets as well, which makes things challenging for people that are walking and biking. There are some good transit facilities, not only big stations nearby, but also buses that go through, one of which, the 76, goes up and down Hall and Watson. A little background. Beaverton's community vision highlights a vibrant downtown as one of our top priorities. And that's what the priority that this project is working towards. In 2016, the city, in collaboration with the Urban Land Institute, basically brought in a bunch of experts with a lot of experience in other ways to look at, hey, what could we do with our downtown? And this is where the loop concept was born in terms of, hey, there are two distinct parts of the downtown. This is a way that we could better connect them. And then Jean mentioned the downtown design project that Brian and Steve worked on. They created an urban design framework to guide the improvement of the downtown, and the loop is a central feature of that, connecting the downtown north to south and also helping people find their way. Where we are in our process is smack dab in the middle of the planning phase. We began this by hiring consultants, I think it was last October, and we hope to finish things up this September. The products of the planning phase is really having a design concept that is a feasible, buildable, and has a good amount of support and addresses our visions and goals as a community, not just the downtown, but all of Beaverton. The design concept is not a design that you can go and build, but it gives you a very clear idea, block by block, of what are things are going to look like, so that we have a good direction in terms of where we're heading. As part of that as well, we'll have planning level cost estimates, which are very important for us to be able to seek funding and get a sense of what the funding requirements are. And then also important is the implementation strategy. There may be different phasing in terms of different actions that are taken, priorities that are taken, yeah. So basically, how to make the plan that's decided upon a reality. Our time frame, like I said, we began in November, and we're hoping to have the plan adopted by the City Council in September this year. So now a little bit about community engagement. We've very much from the beginning, we've been prioritizing having a good process so that we can have a good product. So we've really been reaching out both among the city departments and our partner agencies, and also the wider community. We have a project website. Please welcome you to sign up for email updates on the website. We formed the Community Advisory Committee in January and met a couple times with them. We really prioritized getting a good broad reach of different types of people to give us some good feedback and local knowledge to help guide our planning process and advise the project team. We've just finished up with a few other specific community engagement activities. We've done some in-depth interviews emphasizing people with disabilities and people of color to get a better understanding of their lived experiences with respect to transportation downtown, and specifically with the loop. And then we had a community mapping exercise that we called, which basically we set up some A-frames in 4 different places along the loop, and asked people to basically check in a QR code with their smartphones and answer some questions that had to do with where they were. For example, one of them was at one of these intersections downtown with Canyon and Farmington. How did they feel about the intersection and what could be done? These 2 activities, the in-depth interviews and community mapping, really the goal was to help us have a better understanding of what's out there, what people see as opportunities and constraints. And we're taking this information and we're going back and looking at some design alternatives. And then we will come back to the community, including the CAC, and get their opinions about the alternatives that we've developed. 2 main ways that we'll do that. The first is an option survey, which will also be a cell phone based survey where we can get some feedback from a wide range of people looking at the trade-offs between the alternatives. And then the other one is a virtual open house, which we'll hold sometime in July. in which we will present the design alternatives and try to take advantage as much as we can of what we can do virtually and try to overcome some of the things that we can't do by holding it live. One of the things we've done recently is we've been looking, mapping the existing conditions, opportunities, constraints, a lot of details. And you can see here in the list here, some of the stuff that we've looked at. Hydrology, stormwater is very important to make sure that we get the water up to the Beaverton Creek. And there's new standards for that. Looking at the open spaces, the tree canopy is of value. Looking at things like the frontages, there are parts along the loop where they have really active frontages that really can attract pedestrians. It's a nice place to walk. There are other places where they're not as active. The right of way up and down the loop varies. It's basically every block, sometimes a couple times within a block. The public right of way changes. The sidewalks also are changed their width. The bicycle system, we have some bike lanes that go through downtown, but incompletely, and where they are even, they are not protected. They're kind of the minimum width that can be put there. I've already talked about transit. Parking is something we're looking at in terms of potentially finding more space for uses, pedestrian uses, and the bike system. So this is in a nutshell, the kind of information that we've been putting together to try to get a handle on what can be done to improve things and what could be some of the constraints to doing that. Sorry, I'm going to go through these. I thought these were hidden. Sorry, guys. I had some slides there to go into a little more detail, but the truth is we'd really like to hear your guys' opinion or questions about the project in general. And then if you'd like to touch upon, what you see in terms of downtown and Hall and Watson, what are things that are assets, what things that we'd like to change, and then, what constraints we'd come across in doing that. So with that, I'd like to open it up any clarification questions as well. I think we have a good amount of time, so I'd love to chat with you guys. And Gene, I don't know if you had anything you'd like to add before we open it up to some questions or comments.
No, I think let's just hear from folks who are here tonight.
So Dan and Gene, you guys have come by URAC a couple times, and I've said this every time, so you're probably tired of hearing it, but I don't see how you can connect Beaverton Central and Old Town without doing something about Canyon and Farmington, and I don't know what else you do besides some sort of an elevated footbridge. So I mean, obviously everyone's saying the same thing. What ideas do you have at this point to try to address that?
Well, Eric, I would say to answer that question, and I'll let Gene answer as well. First of all, we've heard not only from URAC, but also our Community Advisory Committee, the idea of pedestrian bridges. And what we've done is we've gone and looked at what is involved with the pedestrian bridge, where else have they been used, what could be some pros and cons of the pedestrian bridges. And we plan on presenting those very soon as part of our alternatives. And then to answer your question about what else can be done, this is something that I would say is one of the main focuses of our technical team in terms of looking at these 4 intersections, looking at the geometrics, looking at the pavement, looking at the signal operations, looking at the urban design aspect of things at these intersections. Our belief as a team right now is that there are a lot of things that can be done that would make significant differences. There are some constraints and there are potentially some implications in terms of if you are prioritizing pedestrians over vehicles. There are some implications in terms of, what that means for the vehicles. But Jean, I don't know if you'd like to add anything at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric, your comment is probably the top comment we hear from people when we ask this question about sort of what do you see are the challenges, and people really do bring up the crossings at Canyon and the crossings at Farmington and the railroad tracks. And we knew that going into this, right? We look at that and we know that that's really that's kind of the core of it's the middle of the loop. It's kind of the core key issue to tackle. I think Dan did a good job of explaining. There's a lot of opportunities that we see to create better crossings for people walking and biking at the surface that don't require people to use a bridge. So I know in past planning efforts, the idea of a bridge to cross over canyons come up. We are now at that place of having a project that needs to figure out how to get across those intersections. So I think there's some creative opportunities that we have ahead of us, and we'll be sharing that with folks over the summer.
Erik, I thank you. Really appreciate the direct questions. And I think that what we all see is that this is an important challenge. We need to do something with these intersections to improve things. I'd just like to add two things, just to give you a sense of that there's a complexity to it, and there's a lot going on. The first is this community mapping exercise that we did. We asked people different questions, and one of the questions that we asked people that were down at the library or up here at Beaverton Central is, what's the main impediment for you to walk from one place to the other, basically up and down the loop? The number one answer was not travel time or those intersections. The number one answer is there's just not anything interesting along the way. So it gives you a sense of things, and there are different elements that can be brought in that can help things. The other thing with respect to the bridge, one of the things, when we're looking at this to present, us as technicians, we have opinions and things, but really our role is to present information and implications to other people, and with respect to the options. And one thing to think about, and this was something that's become much clearer to me personally recently, is, in terms of travel times, sometimes the bridges, they don't necessarily make it quicker to travel. You still have to go up, you still have to come down. As a matter of fact, it could take even more time. I don't want to, we can go into a little more detail if you'd like, but I wanted to give you a sense that there's a lot of little things going on. And, our hope is to organize these and start presenting them to people, and, see what people think about these various options. But mainly there are a lot of options in terms of what can be done at these intersections and up and down the loop that can make an impact.
Got it. Well, appreciate the answers from both of you. Just along those same lines, has there been any thought to potentially making Broadway kind of a hub? I mean, you talked about the top, talked about the bottom, but you've got poor little Broadway, that strip right in the middle where there is a lot of cool stuff. And if you're going from Broadway to one or the other, you're only crossing one of the two streets. I mean, is that?
It's an excellent observation. And it was, I had this kind of epiphany myself after a while, because we were often thinking about, there's just like no man's land between these two places. And, Broadway is very nice. So, it means that it's an easier connection because it's not just nothing there. So absolutely, that can be a value. There are little places along the way as well that can be taken advantage of. Jean, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, I think that's a good answer. It'd be great to hear from others, because Erik's heard us at ERAC. We're really kind of looking for, where do you see, where sort of are some really key assets along the loop? What would you want to change? just things from your own experience going downtown. What's made that easy or difficult for you?
Well, I have a couple of questions. First, I know when things resume, get a little more normal, we'll have the Beaverton Farmers Market going full force from May till October or whenever it goes. And having been to that and having had a booth there over the years, parking is always a very difficult thing, and people park far away and walk. So I'm wondering, does the plan call for diminishing the size of Hall and Watson, increasing street parking? Will you have wider sidewalks since you want to encourage people to walk? I know you mentioned bike lanes. I don't think there's very good bike lanes there right now. So I'm just wondering, you're not going to create new space. So how are you planning to redistribute what there already is?
That's a very well phrased question. And to answer in general, first, all of the above. There is no free lunch. There's no new space to be created. In general, one of the goals of this project is to improve the connectivity north to south by improving the pedestrian and bicycle experience. So things like wider sidewalks, things like more complete bike lanes are definitely going to be alternatives. With respect to parking, the first thing that I'd like to say is, this effort is not going on in a vacuum. There are a lot of other efforts that are going on that are city-led, one of which is the city is embarked in coming up with a parking management strategy for the downtown in general. That would involve, not only on-street parking, but some of the new off-street facilities. So there are going to be, we would present trade-offs. There's a limited amount of right-of-way. The right-of-way, one of the biggest decisions that can be made is the utilization of space within that right-of-way and the efficient sort of interface between where the different modes are used. So there will be alternatives that would be presented with less parking along Hall and Watson. This project is really just looking at the right-of-way on Hall and Watson, not the side streets. Our idea is really to highlight what these trade-offs would be. How could you improve the pedestrian and bicycle experience if you had more space available to dedicate to that? And then what would be the implications with respect to parking? One of the things to keep in mind is that the downtown is a relatively small area. You can walk it from one side to the other in 15 minutes. So we're hoping that what can come out of this is a vision of having parking once and then walking to various different destinations, as opposed to parking at all of the destinations that you would go downtown. And then walking would be in itself something that would be of interest and pleasure. Jean, I don't know if you'd like to add more to that.
No, I mean, I think you did a good job. That whole sort of the space that we have, right? We have limited right of way. In some places, there's buildings right up at the edge of it. And there's, just not a lot of extra room to give. So looking at the space that we have kind of in between the buildings and how we might be able to reconfigure that, that's really sort of the key of this project. And as Dan said, parking is definitely something we're looking at. I think to me, I think it's been exciting to see how during the pandemic, the businesses that are downtown that have been able to utilize the parking space and activate it with outdoor dining really starts to show us what's possible in our downtown and how people might be able to use our streets in different ways than we do today. I think that's just sort of, that's a little bit of what I've been thinking about as we have been sort of going through the last year, and the opportunities that are available with that space that we have. So
We should,
much more conversation to come. Yeah.
we should note that as part of our community advisory committee, we have various business owners and people that live downtown. And certainly with respect to parking, this is something that, this is something that's extremely important to them. And, getting their opinions, one way or the other with respect to some of these, these potential parking alternatives will be very important to us.
Yeah, I just want to ask, because I was a little late to the meeting, and I arrived when I think Erik was presenting about the housing options project. Erik, did you talk about the parking action plan work as well? If not, I can put something in the chat about that and the survey that's out.
I did. I think Miles might have mentioned it, but I did not address it.
Yeah, Miles mentioned it, and I put the link in the minutes.
Okay, great. Perfect. Do take that survey. We want to hear from everyone of their thoughts and opinions about parking downtown. Great.
Will this affect the library parking, or will there always be a place? I have lots of little kids, so for me, priority is maybe not having to walk very far distances because my arms are full. So, the library in particular is important for me to be able to access easily with young kids.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're not looking at making any changes to to those two library lots. There's the east and west lots. Yeah, no, we're focused on the right of way, the sidewalks, the parking lanes, the travel lanes.
And also to add, I mean, those lots are of really a good value. And I think part of our project would be to illuminate that value and take advantage of that value. You have parking that's, it's just a couple blocks walking from there to Old Town, for example.
Another question, is there anything in that the city transportation department is working on to maybe improve some of the streets to draw traffic off of Farmington and Canyon Road and still end up going east-west?
That's a very good question, David. Those are those are not only links for Beaverton as a city, but regional links.
Yeah.
And there are a limited number of east-west links that go all the way through. I think Gene can answer your question, more better than I can. But I think the options are rather limited.
Yeah, I think Dan, you put it well. Canyon and Farmington are probably some of our highest classification of streets. In Beaverton, I think Dan said earlier they carry something like 20 to 30,000 vehicles a day. They have a really important function. And one of our challenges with this project is going to be to figure out how do we bring some more balance, particularly for that north-south traffic that we're trying to facilitate and make it be more comfortable, safer for folks who are going north and south. So at this point, in terms of a project, your question was really improving other streets to draw traffic off of Canyon and Milliken. I think there's a certain function that those streets provide by being that major through traffic. So we don't have a project that's necessarily trying to pull that traffic off onto another local street. There's that higher function that they serve. Both of them sort of, one still a state highway, one part of the state highway network, Farmington. At this point, there's not, as Dan said, there's not really another street that we could point them to. Right. The next highest would be US 26, all the way to the north. That's like the next highest classification. There's some others once you get to the further north, sort of the other north side of downtown. What would that be? Walker.
Yeah, the next one is basically Walker. Yeah, and then in the south, there's not a lot that go all the way through. Yeah, David, that you guys are asking very good questions. The thing that comes to mind to answer your question, I would answer it this way. Beaverton is designated one of the regional centers of the metropolitan area. And the city and its community vision has really highlighted having a vibrant downtown. So this project and others that we have mentioned, the goal is really to make it function as a real downtown. And, if you think about a real downtown, you don't think about having, basically all of the capacity or the attention on roads that cross through the downtown. You think of a place where, people are coming to it. It's not just another neighborhood center, it's the center of Beaverton. And, it's a place where people can walk, it's a place where people can bike, it's a place where people can, do business. So that's the vision that we're working towards supporting. And, there's some trade-offs involved, and some of the trade-offs involved with, that traffic and, how that traffic might be affected. And, the answer is really what we've seen in terms of, what the community wants and the city council is really they want a fun pedestrian experience downtown. They want a vibrant downtown. And, that's what we're looking at in terms of presenting. Now, there may be implications that, they're big implications, but, that's how we'll be presenting it in that sense.
Okay. How are we doing on time?
Could I ask you guys a question? If we have a little more time, I don't know. Oh boy, we're already late. I don't have to ask. Sorry, Dave.
No, go
That's
ahead.
okay. No, for me, it's just a nice opportunity to talk to people that maybe don't live downtown or don't spend a lot of time downtown. How do you look at a project like this? Do you look at it as like something that's maybe competing with other projects that are more, physically located, for example, up here in Five Oaks? Or do you look at it as something that could potentially be something to help, the whole city, or something where, the downtown would be somewhere where everybody would go? It'd be for all of Beaverton. What are thoughts that come to your mind? And you can be honest.
I personally love the project. I think making downtown a destination for everybody in the city. Because from Five Oaks, it is enough of a trek to where you are going somewhere. It is a destination. I think connecting the downtown, making it a destination, making it accessible for people via transit or car, however they want to get there. I think it's a wonderful idea.
You mentioned when you took a survey that there's really no destination downtown that draws people. I think the city has begun the process, though, by encouraging more restaurants to open up, because obviously restaurants draw people. So I don't know if there's some businesses that the city is trying to encourage into that area. I know they're trying to encourage more apartments and more people living downtown.
It's the PRCA coming in.
Yeah, David, I think that the comment, the way it was phrased was that there isn't. It's not that they were saying there weren't destinations, there weren't interesting things to see along the walk. And I'll say there are some blocks along the loop that really aren't very interesting.
And
there
we've tried to find interesting stuff.
But yes, the Patricia Research Center for the Arts is going to open early next year, and we're really excited for that. That's at the north end. At the south end, we have the library. And on Saturdays, we have the farmers market. So And you're right, you know, Restaurant Row, which is what we call the area around First and Watson, is a huge draw. And particularly we've seen with the First Street Dining Commons, how sort of a beloved space that's become during the pandemic for people who want to be able to come downtown, get something to eat, meet up with friends, bring their families. It's been really amazing to just see how successful that's been. So there are some key destinations, and yes, David, you mentioned housing. There's a lot more housing downtown. We're really starting to create a downtown where you can live and work and have fun. So I think it's really more about like, how do we make those blocks more interesting to really help draw you along the way, right? How does it not? I think one of our CAC members said there's a stretch where it just feels very, it feels longer than it should, because there wasn't a lot of interesting things there. I think it was in that stretch between like Farmington and Canyon. So we would love to be able to see people come downtown, park in our new Central District garage, which is right next to the PRCA, go see a show, and decide to walk down to the restaurant as part of their evening experience, right? Or daytime, depending on what the event is. So there's a lot of opportunity.
To answer your question, David, we have a lot of very energetic and talented people working along the lines that you were mentioning in terms of trying to attract businesses and work with businesses here downtown. So we see what we're doing, as a complement to that, working with public infrastructure to sort of complement, bringing in new private energy.
Would a shuttle type system work as a way to move people?
Jean, you want to take that one?
Sure. I would say in this case, if you remember, Dan said it's about a 15-minute walk, 15 to 20-minute walk from end to end, which really isn't something in my mind that really warrants investing in a shuttle to make that trip. It's really a trip you can make by walking. We want to make sure that we're making investments for people who to be able to safely ride a bike. There's sections where we have a bike lane. There's sections where the bike lane just disappears. And we want to make that a lot safer and a much more pleasant experience. So I think a shuttle isn't going to be the solution that will get us to that vibrant downtown, right? We want to see people out walking, going to businesses, and really creating more opportunity for more businesses to say, hey, downtown Beaverton's a great place to be, and find that, find those opportunities for them there. So.
Yeah, in short, I think the solution that we're looking towards is not just getting people from point A to point B. If there was some magic little booth we could get that you'd walk in it, and then, at Beaverton Central, and then you step out of it at the library, that would be great in terms of getting you from one of the areas to the other, but it would not accomplish a lot of the other goals that Jean mentioned.
We want these streets to really become like energizing in our downtown, that create activity, that then support the businesses adjacent, or make it be a really great place to live if you're choosing to live in one of the apartments or condos that's getting built downtown. It's all meant to be really supportive. Or if you're a business and, if you're an office-based business, this is a great place for you to bring workers to have a great place to work downtown. Michael, did you have your hand raised? Did you want to ask a question? Hi.
I look at it also, yes, we want to, make the downtown more viable, but also Hall Watson is major north-south non-217 throughway. It carries a lot of traffic, not to the downtown area, but through. And what I was wondering if you had looked at the numbers on that, is how much of that traffic goes through versus goes into and stops in and then comes back out. And also, because normally when I've heard, you know, we're going to make it more vibrant, more for bicycles, more for walking and such, means more sidewalk, bicycle lanes, less streets going through, which means since there's only so much real estate, so much resource or whatever you want to call it, that means less lanes or lane for cars. And if that's the main thing that's happening, which is north and south traffic, where is that traffic going to go to? It's not going to push onto 217 because it's over on Hall and Watson now because of 217. And 217 isn't going to improve in well enough time. And it's not going to be able to move to the side streets of any of the other roads because they don't go through, not like Hall and Watson do. So how would we address that?
That's another good question, Michael. You're really making us work for our lunch or dinner. I appreciate your honesty. So what I would say is, to answer your first question about, you know, how much of that traffic is going through versus stopping there, we don't have a lot of that information. For example, we don't have a lot of information with respect to Hall, Canyon, and Farmington as well in terms of the east-west traffic, you know, the origin destination. That information is something that it would, let me put it another way. This is what we have right now is one phase of this project, the planning, and we're focusing on coming up with alternatives. And one of the subsequent steps could be designing some of the infrastructure itself. Another step could be further studying some of the potential implications of some of the alternatives. So what you've identified is an implication with respect to traffic, trying to understand vehicular traffic, where it's coming from, what could be the implications. Are these implications that we're willing to live with when we're prioritizing having a real downtown, or these implications that can really cause trouble in other parts or in other streets in Beaverton? So to answer your question, we don't have that information, and the scope of our study right now, what we're doing right now, does not go into studying that in detail quantitatively. But these are implications that we're going to identify. And if some of the alternatives that we find that are chosen as part of this process have some significant implications with respect to vehicular traffic, we would need to be responsible to be able to study that and see what would be really going on. Jean, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
I do, which is, so Michael, we early on in the project, as we met with our consultant team for the first time, we set some constraints on the project, which is that because of the reasons that Dan just cited, we are not looking at reducing Hall and Watson to anything less than 2 lanes. So for the most of Hall and Watson, we have 2 lanes, you know, north or south, depending on which street you're on. Because this isn't a project where we're going to be able to mitigate the system impacts that removing those lanes would have. So we're not talking about having anything less than 2 lanes. There are a few places, if you go to Hall, north of Canyon for sure, maybe north of Broadway, where there are 3 lanes, there's no parking. Those are definitely blocks we're looking at about, well, what can we accomplish in those blocks? Do we really need all those 3 lanes? You know, there may be a bit of some of that's a little bit overbuilt. And then another way that we're going to be sort of able to creatively create some space is that we are able to look at the width of the travel lanes. There's the ability, because we're in a downtown, speeds are slower. Most of Hall and Watson either is or within a year's time will be posted for 20 miles an hour. So at slower speeds, we're able to narrow the lanes. I think we may have mostly 12-foot lanes today. We're talking about 11-foot lanes. So, you know, there's ways to just look at that cross section and see where what can we squeeze out of it? How can we create some space? What do we have to work with? So hopefully that kind of, I saw you nodding your head a little bit. So hopefully that you can kind of visualize that. But yeah, we're not talking about taking Hall or Watson down to one lane to create all this space. So those are bigger impacts beyond what any of us, I think, can reasonably achieve.
Okay, having said that, we're running out of time, and I'm glad you were able to get in as much as you did.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you both. But we do have a few minutes left in our meeting, so we have a couple things to go over. So,
Well, thank you, David, and please visit our website, sign up for our emails. Also, when it comes to the virtual open house and this other option survey, I'll be sure to pass on links and information, and please participate, give us your opinions. It's very important.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Gene.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Good to see you all.
Okay, so we do have our April minutes that need to be addressed. So
I move to approve the April minutes as written.
do I have a second?
I will second.
Oh, good. Thank you, Dennis. Let's see. Our treasurer isn't here. We need to drag him out of his house and get him to sit down so we can teach him how to do one of these Zoom meetings. Okay. Does anybody have any future meeting suggestions, topics? If you do, you can always email me. Okay. I've talked to the city about this. We're going to have a June meeting, and then, as what's normal for us, no meeting in July and August, and then we'll resume again in September. Okay. Let's see. This must have been something else.
Maybe in September we'll be meeting in person.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, yeah. Normally we would be meeting at the school, but they're not allowing meetings in September anymore. So, but we could meet at the pizza place where we.
The pizza place isn't the pizza place anymore.
There's no Papa's Pizza anymore.
The sports bar and arcade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shows you what I've been doing. Nothing. Sports bar, Papa's Pizza's gone, huh?
Yeah, it's what is it called? I drive by there every day.
Oh,
it's a sports bar.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
And if you're over in that area, you should check out the two hotels. They're getting real close to being finished.
Yeah,
we've
I
been
was
watching those go up. We live on Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
And we come right out there and look at them.
Open, isn't it? I have a friend who went and stayed a night just to try it out and swim in the pool.
Nice. Okay. I was wondering about getting an update on some of the projects, like the one on Walker and 185th. They haven't broken ground yet. I would think they would have by now, but I don't know if there's been a holdup.
The last thing I saw said spring of this year. So that was the last notes that I could find on it.
I see.
Wasn't there something that was tied to the Walker project with that?
The wetlands, I
Maybe,
think.
because that was delayed. So maybe they've delayed theirs too.
Like their exit on onto Walker Road was going to be done concurrently with the project, as I recall. So maybe that's what holding them up.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Let's see. How about we at our last meeting we discussed having a shredding event. Are we still have some enthusiasm for that, or?
Well, that might be something to put up on our Facebook.
Well, we have to organize first a place to have it, and then, you know, figure out a date and that sort of stuff.
I thought in our last meeting, I guess it was Francisca was the one who did the meeting, was going to get some information for us.
She sent me some, so maybe I should send it out to you. It was just, the information she sent me was how Highland NAC was able to do their shredding event.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But, you know, Highland NAC, they're a very high participating NAC. They have at least 20 or 30 people that are involved. So it's easier for them to pull something like this off. Although, you know, I believe they told us you only need 4 people, but it's pretty much what we have.
What do you think the interest would be in our area?
I don't know. Really don't. It was really high in the Highland NAC, but our NAC's completely different than theirs.
Well, it's spread out too.
Yeah. I believe the strategy would be the city would send out a postcard or an email to the NAC or to members. I think it would be a postcard. And then, because we would like to make this more of a NAC event and not a city event or a regional event, we really don't want the word going out that way. So maybe we'll need to have a board meeting to talk about that.
Yeah, it'd be good if there was a way to gauge interest, because you don't want to go to all the trouble to set it up if no one's going to come. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, maybe this is exactly the thing we need to get more people involved with the NAC. So I don't know, it's sort of a chicken or egg thing.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll send out that information that Francisca sent me. And then Aaron, you were going to speak with your church?
Well, I can if we were wanting to do it. It would probably be simple, but only if people really want it and we want to do it. It sounds easy enough. But I'd be happy to once we all decide if we want to do it or not.
I see. And what day of the week would work best for the church?
Probably a Saturday.
Saturday. Okay.
What do you think for the general public would be best?
I think Saturday
That's
or
a good
Sunday.
day, yeah.
But
Well, there's the other church on 173rd, but I'm sure any church Sundays obviously wouldn't be good. And then you probably wouldn't want to do a weekday. So I'm guessing Saturday, if we did one of the churches. Otherwise, someone had suggested Home Depot. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to check if that's something we want to do.
Okay.
We sound really hesitant. Miles, tell us something.
I believe in you. Yeah, I think checking with the church would be a good idea. I think having a location is kind of the major barrier for this project. It does not take a lot of people to staff it. Because the company sets up the truck and handles the boxes as they come off the cars. So really it's about greeting people, directing them in traffic, you know, through like a loop that you can do. And we can use cones and things to cut down the number of people needed to do that.
And
then
the cost, yeah, the cost I saw was about $900 was the cost. And it said that they, in their write-up in their report, they were able to get food donations and cash donations to easily cover that cost.
Yeah, they did a matching grant. So their treasury came out whole at the end of the day. And then, yeah, there was a lot of food donations that went to the church. The church has a small pantry, so they like fully stocked them up. The church was very excited about that. And then they donated to another food bank too, what the church couldn't take. And then they didn't advertise cash donations, which I think was a missed opportunity. But people who didn't bring food were like, "Can I give you, $5? Or this is such a great service. Here's a 20." And they raised, I can't remember quite how much, around $100 cash, without asking anybody for money. And they gave that to the church too, because they have a huge bank account and they didn't feel like they needed to make money off the event.
Right. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, but now we're getting into summer. So how long would it take? Like if we emailed all this week and found a date, how much time would we need in advance to decide? Would we be getting into July, or should we be waiting until fall?
I need a month to get the postcard together. And the postcard would go to all the mailboxes in your NAC only. And it would also have information about the NAC and when you meet and what you do on it, as well as just announcing the event. I'll probably have to be there, so I would push for the fall because it's hot in July and August standing on a hot parking lot, even in the morning.
Plus people go out of town and people are starting to run much.
So maybe we should think about it more for a September function.
Yeah, well, if we meet again, our first meeting would be August, right?
No, September.
Oh, we don't meet again until September. So we take
Well,
July.
we'll meet in June, but not July and August.
Okay.
It might make sense for Aaron to go to the church and see what Saturdays would be available in September.
Okay.
Except for the holiday weekend.
Yeah, not the holiday weekend. Yeah.
Later in the month probably gonna be better anyway, just because the first week of September is not a whole lot different than the last week of August in terms of weather.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
And then you could meet in June and vote to submit a matching grant. And then if one or two of you wanted to work on the logistics and figuring that out with me, we could meet outside. You wouldn't have to call a board meeting to talk about that stuff. And then the other NAC members to be there the day of.
And then who sets up the truck?
Truck company. Oh, who calls them?
Yes.
Somebody from the NAC. I would highly recommend the company that Highland used. They were super helpful, and he showed up and said, "I'll do whatever you want." And I'm like, move the truck. Now move it again. No, we like it better over here. And he was super excited to be there and very easy to work with.
And what are the hours we would want to have the parking lot at the church reserved from?
Probably an hour before and an hour after is all you need.
4 hours?
Yeah, it'd be up to you how long you want to do it for. I think 2 hours is plenty of time.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Okay.
There's like an initial rush at the beginning because everybody wants to get their stuff done and then get on with their Saturday. But we still had people coming through towards the end.
What time frame did you do it?
I would have to look. I think we started at 9, like 9 to 11.
Okay.
And then we started cleaning up too as it slowed down and making, picking up cones and making the space smaller and smaller as we didn't have cars queuing up. They could just kind of pull right up to the truck at the end.
Okay.
Kind of like what we used to do for the cleanups.
Yep.
Yeah, same thing.
Perfect.
Yep. And so I had all the volunteers out of there, probably, except for the people collecting food because they boxed it all up, out of there within a half hour of closing the line.
I see.
So it's not it's not your whole Saturday either.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
All right. September time. Sounds good.
The biggest part of it is just being nice and talking to people in cars and telling them about the NAC and inviting them to your meetings. So
That'd be fun.
That would.
Okay, great. All right. Does anybody have anything else to add before we adjourn the meeting? All right.
Nope.
Oh, I see 4 things in the chat. Hold on. Let's see. Michael, please post the link. All panelists. Michael, all panelists. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a good month. Enjoy Memorial Weekend and be safe.
Yeah. See everybody next month.
Yeah. Okay.
Take care. Aaron, you take care of that little Phantom of the Opera that I saw peeking around the corner.